Episode 3. Unearthing Secrets' husband was shocked to discover that he had been paying their house rent to his wife. David lay awake that night, staring at the cracked ceiling above their bed, his mind consumed by the weight of Sarah's confession, or rather, the lack of one. She had refused to say anything further, brushing off his questions with vague promises that everything would make sense in time. But time was a luxury David didn't feel he had. The silence between them was suffocating, and every unanswered question was a nail driven deeper into the coffin of their trust. He replayed every interaction with Sarah over the years, dissecting her words, her actions, her decisions. The clues had been there all along. Her insistence on moving to the bigger apartment even when they couldn't afford it, her refusal to contribute to the rent, the way she always seemed detached from their financial struggles, as though they were his burden alone. How had he missed it? How had he been so blind? When the first rays of dawn crept through the tattered curtains, David resolved to uncover the truth himself. Once Sarah left for work, dressed in her usual immaculate attire and offering no more than a curt goodbye, David began his search. The apartment, small as it was, held years of accumulated belongings, a cluttered labyrinth of boxes, drawers, and forgotten corners. He started with her desk drawers, rummaging through neat stacks of papers, notebooks, and miscellaneous items. Bills, receipts, and random trinkets gave no indication of the secrets he sought. Frustration mounting, he moved on to the closets, sifting through bags and boxes. Hours passed, and the apartment became a chaotic mess of upturned furniture and scattered belongings. But David refused to give up. Finally, he reached the suitcase. It was an old, battered thing that had sat untouched in the back of the closet for years. He almost ignored it, thinking it held nothing more than clothes or old photographs. But something compelled him to unzip it. Inside, buried beneath layers of fabric, he found a folder. His hands trembled as he pulled it out and opened it. The first page alone was enough to make his heart race. Bank statements, with Sarah's name clearly printed at the top, revealed deposits far larger than the salary she had always claimed. David flipped through them, his pulse quickening with every page. These weren't the paychecks of a struggling employee. They were the earnings of someone with substantial financial assets. Further down, he found property deeds. Some were listed under aliases, but the details, the addresses, the dates, pointed back to Sarah. One by one, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. These properties weren't just random investments. They were rental properties, and Sarah was their landlord. The receipts confirmed it. Rent payments from tenants, including their own, funneled into accounts Sarah controlled. The very money he had been breaking his back to earn was going straight to her. And then, at the bottom of the stack, he found the document that shattered him completely, the so-called failed investment. It was a detailed business plan for purchasing and renting properties. Far from being a failure, it was the foundation of a small real estate empire. Sarah had taken the money he had worked so hard to save, money he had trusted her with, and used it to build her fortune. David sank to the floor, the folder slipping from his hands. His chest heaved as he struggled to process the enormity of the betrayal. The woman he had loved, the woman he had built a life with, had been living a lie. Anger surged through him, hot and consuming. How could she have done this? How could she have looked him in the eye, day after day, knowing the truth? He thought of the sacrifices he had made, the sleepless nights, the backbreaking work, all for a family he thought he was supporting. And all the while, Sarah had been secretly thriving. But beneath the anger was heartbreak. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about partnership. He had shared his dreams with Sarah, his hopes for their future, and she had trampled on them without a second thought. The sound of the front door opening startled him. His heart leaped into his throat as he scrambled to his feet, shoving the folder back into the suitcase and zipping it shut. Sarah's heels clicked against the floor as she entered the apartment, her usual composed expression firmly in place. "David," she called, her tone neutral. He stepped out of the bedroom, forcing his face into a mask of calm. "You're home early," he said, his voice betraying none of the turmoil churning inside him. She raised an eyebrow, glancing around at the mess he hadn't had time to clean up. "What's all this?" "Just sorting through some things," he replied smoothly. She looked at him for a moment, her gaze sharp and calculating. "Well, don't make too much of a mess. I'm not in the mood for any drama tonight." With that, she disappeared into the bedroom, leaving David standing alone in the chaos. He clenched his fists, his mind racing. He couldn't confront her, not yet. Not until he had a plan, a way to protect himself and the children. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a battle, and he needed to be ready for the war that was coming. That night, as Sarah slept soundly beside him, David lay awake, staring at the ceiling once again. But this time, his thoughts weren't just of despair. They were of determination. Sarah had built her empire in the shadows, but David was about to bring everything into the light. And when he did, she would have to answer for everything. If you're as invested in David's journey as we are, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when the next gripping episode of The Veil of Deceit drops. You won't want to miss it. In the next episode, David begins piecing together the extent of Sarah's deception, uncovering more lies and unraveling secrets hidden in plain sight. But when the moment comes to confront Sarah, will he find the strength to face her? Or will the weight of betrayal be too much? Don't miss the emotional and explosive episode 4, The Emotional Collapse.